Have you ever had everything fall apart and no one even noticed? You smiled through it, showed up, handled what had to be handled. But behind your eyes, something was broken. A dream, a trust, a part of you that used to believe the world was fair, or at least survivable. Maybe you thought you'd be further along by now. Maybe you lost something you worked your whole life to build. Or maybe, just maybe, someone looked you in the eye and said you weren't enough. And for a second, you believed them. This isn't a story about falling down. This is about what comes after. Because the truth no one talks about is this: the comeback doesn't start when you get back on your feet. It starts in the silence, when no one's cheering, no one's watching, and no one's offering you a hand. It starts the moment you say to yourself, I don't care how long it takes, I'm not staying down. And I want you to hear this loud and clear. The comeback is not for them. It's not to prove your critics wrong. It's not for the applause. It's not for revenge. It's personal, because the loss was personal, because the betrayal was personal, because the pain you carry doesn't have a name tag on it. It has your DNA etched into every scar. You're not here for a pep talk. You've heard enough of those. This is about truth, about grit, about walking through fire and choosing to become someone stronger on the other side of it. So if you're standing in the middle of your mess right now, if your confidence has been stripped down to nothing, if your vision is blurry and you don't even recognize who you are anymore, good. That means you're in the exact right place. Because what comes next is yours to decide. And this time, it won't be loud, it won't be flashy, and it sure as hell won't be for anyone else's approval. This time, the comeback is personal. We all carry pain. Some of it loud, some of it silent. Some of it leaves visible scars, and some of it sits so deep beneath the surface that even we forget it's there until something rips it open again. And here's the truth that most people won't tell you. Your pain is real. It's valid. You don't have to shrink it down to make others comfortable. You don't have to package it in polite language or try to make it sound more inspirational. You're allowed to admit you were hurt. You're allowed to say you didn't deserve what happened to you, that it made you question everything, your worth, your purpose, even your future. But here's the line in the sand. Your pain, no matter how deep, is not a permission slip to stay down. It's not a hall pass to give up on yourself. It's not a lifelong excuse to lower your standards, sabotage your potential, or let your fear make your decisions. It's not a story you get to replay over and over while refusing to write a new chapter. You see, we live in a culture that tells us to honor our trauma. And yes, we should. But honoring it doesn't mean building a home in it. You're allowed to grieve, but you don't get to live there forever. Because the second your pain becomes your identity, you stop evolving. You stop reaching. You stop becoming who you're meant to be. Because you've handcuffed yourself to who you were when you broke. There is a fine but powerful difference between acknowledgement and attachment. Acknowledge what happened. Own it. Let it teach you. Let it shape the parts of you that needed refining. But don't let it be the reason you hold back. Don't let it become the justification you whisper to yourself when you quit early, play small, or numb out instead of rising. Because here's the harder truth. Life will not always reward you for your pain. There are no guarantees that people will understand it, validate it, or even see it. Some people will move on like it never happened, while you're still standing in the debris of everything that fell apart. That's not fair, but it is real. And you get to decide whether that breaks you or builds you. You may have every right to be angry, every right to feel betrayed, every reason to say, this isn't how it was supposed to go. But at some point, those emotions, valid as they are, can become chains. And the longer you carry them, the heavier they get. The world doesn't need another person drowning quietly in resentment. It needs someone who says, yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was brought to my knees, but I stood up anyway, and I kept moving. Not because it was easy, not because I felt strong, but because I refused to let pain become the last thing that defined me. You want to know something raw and honest? There are people walking around today who are not more talented than you, not more intelligent, not more deserving, but they kept going. That's it. That's the whole difference. They didn't wait to feel ready. They didn't wait for the apology. They didn't wait for the pain to disappear. They just kept showing up. And showing up doesn't mean pretending you're okay. It doesn't mean forcing positivity or ignoring your wounds. It means you keep taking steps even when you don't know if you're doing it right. It means you keep pushing even if your voice shakes and your heart hurts and you're tired of carrying it all alone. Your pain might have been the spark, but your choices are the fire. And here's what I want you to hear clearly. The world will try to hand you a script, one where you're the victim, one where you never recover, one where you're always just a little bit broken, a little bit behind. Tear that script up, burn it. Write your own. No one gets to define what your comeback looks like. Not your past, not the people who left, not the mistakes you've made. Only you. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of this pain. Stronger, quieter, sharper, wiser. They don't talk as much because they don't need to. They've earned peace the hard way. They've rebuilt. They've stopped begging for approval. They've become someone they respect. But to become them, you have to stop giving your pain the mic. You have to stop letting it narrate your life. You have to stop hiding behind it like armor and start using it like fuel. Because you don't get to stay down. Not because it doesn't hurt, but because staying down costs too much. It costs your potential, your impact, your story. And you owe yourself more than that. So feel the pain. Name it. Let it sharpen you. But then stand up, because it's not over. Not even close. And the next chapter, that one's personal. There's a moment, usually quiet, sometimes terrifying, when you realize no one is coming to save you. Not the person who promised they'd always be there. Not the team that said they had your back. Not the system, not the job, not the relationship, not the title. No cavalry, no miracle, just silence. It's in that moment, standing in the middle of what you thought you could count on, that the truth lands with weight. If this gets better, it's because you made it better. If you rise, it's because you chose to stand up. That realization can shake you to your core, but it can also free you in a way that nothing else can. Because when you stop waiting to be rescued, you start reclaiming power you didn't even know you gave away. We are trained from an early age to look outward for answers. Someone else always knows more. Someone else will fix it. Someone else will see our worth and open a door. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. And over time, it conditions us to delay our own progress, to wait for permission, to stay still until we feel chosen. And what we don't realize until it's too late is that every second we spend waiting is a second lost. And no one's going to give those seconds back. So what does it really mean to own the truth that no one is coming? It means you stop rehearsing your excuses. You stop pointing fingers. You stop building your identity around who hurt you or what went wrong. You start asking better questions. Not why me, but what now? Not when will they change, but what can I change? You take your focus off what's missing and put it on what's still possible. It means you stop giving people the power to determine your direction. Just because someone couldn't see your value doesn't mean you lost it. Just because someone left doesn't mean you're unlovable. You cannot keep outsourcing your self-worth to people who weren't built to hold it. This truth isn't meant to harden you. It's meant to awaken you. Because the moment you understand that your rescue mission starts with you, you stop looking up and around and you start looking within. And that's where the real work begins. You start developing tools instead of excuses. You stop waiting for the right circumstances and start creating them. You stop needing motivation and start relying on discipline. Because here's something a lot of people won't tell you. Most of what changes your life won't feel good while it's happening. Waking up early when you're tired doesn't feel good. Saying no to distractions doesn't feel good. Setting boundaries with people who are used to walking over you definitely doesn't feel good. But here's the trade-off. Temporary discomfort for long-term strength. That's the deal. And it's always worth it. You will meet people who want to rescue you with promises. They'll tell you they have the answer, the shortcut, the fix. Don't buy it. Real transformation doesn't come in a box. It comes in sweat, tears, tough choices, quiet mornings, and lonely nights. When you keep going even though no one's clapping. It comes when you get tired of your own patterns and decide to break them, even if it means walking alone for a while. The truth is, you might have to rebuild from scratch. You might have to cut ties. You might have to unlearn 10 years of playing small. But no one's going to do that for you. And that's not a punishment. It's an opportunity. Because the life you want isn't hiding behind a savior. It's waiting for the version of you who stops negotiating with fear and starts leading with purpose. You don't need more advice. You don't need more approval. You need one honest conversation with yourself. Ask yourself, what would I be doing right now if I stopped waiting for a sign and started being one? That's where the shift begins. Owning your life doesn't mean pretending to have it all figured out. It means getting honest about where you've been giving your power away and taking it back without apology. It means learning how to hold yourself when things get hard instead of collapsing and hoping someone else carries the weight. You are not weak for wanting support, but you are mistaken if you think support replaces responsibility. The two are not the same. You can receive help, but you can't expect anyone to hand you the life you're meant to earn. There's a kind of strength that comes from this kind of ownership, a quiet, unshakable kind. The kind that doesn't need to yell to be heard. The kind that doesn't chase validation because it knows its own value. The kind that walks away from the things that don't grow it and runs toward what does, even when it's hard, even when it's lonely, even when it's terrifying. You are your own rescue plan. That's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate. Because that means you don't need to be chosen. You can choose yourself. You don't need to wait to be called forward. You can walk forward on your own. And maybe that's the most powerful move of all. Not waiting. Not hoping. Just deciding. Nobody's coming to save you. And now that you know that, you're finally free to become the one who does. There's a moment in every journey where motivation vanishes. It doesn't knock. It doesn't explain itself. It just disappears. One day you wake up, and that fire you felt, gone. That drive that kept you going, quiet. The goal you were chasing suddenly feels far away and blurry. You don't feel like showing up. You don't feel like putting in the work. And you start questioning everything, your passion, your purpose, your ability to keep going. That's the moment when most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because they've built their effort on feelings. They've built their consistency on mood. But feelings are fleeting. And if your success depends on how you feel in the moment, you'll never build anything that lasts. You'll always start strong and stop halfway. You'll always talk about what you want to do, but never live in what you've actually done. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't seek comfort. It doesn't ask for perfect conditions. It shows up, rain or shine, tired or energized, excited or heartbroken. Discipline is the part of you that stays standing when motivation walks out. It's the muscle that gets stronger every time you do the hard thing, especially when you don't want to. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is strategic. One is temporary. The other is trained. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when I feel more ready? How many times have you waited for the right mood to hit before making a move? That delay, that hesitation, it costs you. Day by day, it pulls you further away from your goals and deeper into stagnation. In the harsh truth, readiness isn't coming. It's built. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's the reward for following through. Every person who has built something extraordinary, whether it's a business, a body, a career, or a mindset, they didn't rely on motivation to carry them. They built systems. They built habits. They got clear on what mattered and removed the option to skip the work. That's discipline. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not something you post about. It's that invisible grind. The choices no one sees, but everyone feels in the result. Discipline? Is the alarm going off at 5 a.m. and you getting up even though your bed is warm and your excuses are louder? It's showing up to the gym when your body is tired. It's writing when the words won't come. It's staying the course when the finish line is still nowhere in sight. It's eating right, speaking truth, following through. Not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. That's what separates people. Not talent, not luck, not resources, but discipline. The ability to honor your commitment long after the mood has left. And here's what no one tells you. Discipline actually gives you freedom. Because when you train yourself to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel, you're no longer a prisoner to your emotions. You're no longer reactive. You become proactive. You stop chasing the high of want to and become rooted in have to. Not in a burdened way, but in a powerful, grounded, unstoppable way. You don't rise by doing what's easy. You rise by doing what's necessary. And most of the time, the necessary things don't feel good in the moment, but they feel incredible in the long run. That's what discipline gives you, the long run. The results that stay, the self-respect that builds brick by brick every time you keep a promise to yourself. Motivation is a visitor. Discipline is a resident. One knocks on your door. The other builds the house. If you're waiting to feel inspired before you act, you'll live your whole life standing at the starting line. The people who move forward, who build the comeback, who change their lives, they stopped waiting, they started deciding. They made discipline their default. They removed the emotional drama from the equation. It became simple, not easy, but simple. This is what needs to be done. So I do it. It's in those quiet, uncelebrated moments that everything changes. When no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when there's no reward in sight. That's where the transformation begins. Not in the loud victories, but in the quiet repetitions. The boring reps, the overlooked effort, the small, consistent, disciplined actions that stack up until one day, without warning, something big shifts. And the beautiful part, once discipline becomes who you are, you stop needing to force it. You don't fight yourself anymore. You trust yourself. And real trust isn't built through words or intentions. It's built through consistency, through the days you don't quit, through the moments you didn't skip. This is the difference between wishing and winning, between dreaming and doing. You have everything you need already inside of you. You don't need more hype. You don't need another motivational quote. You need structure. You need clarity. You need to show up for yourself when no one else will. And you need to do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, because this is what makes the comeback real. Not a burst of energy, but a relentless commitment to keep going, one step at a time. Discipline doesn't promise that it will always be easy. It promises that it will always be worth it. And when everything else falls away, when your emotions waver, when your circumstances shift, when your motivation disappears, it's discipline that will still be standing, waiting, steady, unshaken, and ready to carry you forward. There's this idea floating around that every comeback needs to be loud, that you have to announce it, make it flashy, post it, prove it, that somehow if it doesn't make noise, it doesn't count. But that's not how real transformation works. That's not how the strongest comebacks are built. Real comebacks are quiet at first. They begin in solitude, in silence, in the dark corners where no one's watching, no one's clapping, and no one sees the work you're doing to put yourself back together. They begin when you're staring at your own reflection, wondering if you'll ever feel like yourself again. They begin with questions that don't have easy answers, and with small, often invisible decisions to keep moving forward anyway. You don't need to announce your healing. You don't have to post your grind. You don't owe the world an explanation for why you stepped back, why you fell apart, or why you're taking your time to come back stronger. The real power in a comeback isn't in what other people see. It's in what you rebuild inside yourself. The mindset, the grit, the boundaries, the resilience. Loud is easy. Loud can be faked, but real. Real is quiet. Real is raw. Real doesn't need an audience to be valid. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is show up in silence, one day at a time with no proof except the fire still burning inside you. You don't have to scream, "I'm back." You just have to act like it, move like it, live like it. Real comebacks aren't built on external validation. They're built on internal commitment. You do it for you because you've seen what it's like to break, and you've decided you're worth the rebuild. You'll notice this shift when it happens. Suddenly, you're no longer interested in revenge, no longer chasing applause. You're not trying to prove your worth to people who missed it the first time. You're too focused, too grounded, too deep into your own process to care about outside opinions. The beauty of a real comeback is that it's not dependent on timing or applause or even recognition. It unfolds in layers. First, you reclaim your mindset, then your energy, then your habits, then your slowly but surely the pieces fall back into place, not as they were, but stronger, cleaner, with more clarity, with more intent. And if no one notices at first, good. That means you're not doing it for them. You're not performing your pain or your progress. You're just living it. That's where your real power lives, not in being seen, but in seeing yourself clearly again. Sometimes people around you won't understand your silence. They won't understand why you're suddenly unavailable for drama, why you stopped explaining yourself, why your circle got smaller, why your energy feels different. Let them wonder. They weren't there when it all fell apart. They don't need to be part of your rebuild. You don't owe your past any more airtime. You don't owe your pain a permanent role in your story. And you definitely don't owe the world a performance to prove you're okay again. You owe yourself peace, purpose, truth. You owe yourself a life that feels honest, even if it's quiet. Especially if it's quiet. A real comeback is when you stop trying to fix what broke and instead start building something new. Not to get back to who you were, but to grow into who you were, always meant to become. You stop looking back at what was lost and start creating what's next. You start protecting your energy. You move with intention. You stop begging for clarity and start being clarity. That's the It won't be dramatic. It won't always be obvious. Some days it'll just be getting out of bed when everything in you says stay down. Some days it's saying no when you used to say yes. Some days it's admitting the truth to yourself and letting that truth change you. That's real. That's what makes the comeback sustainable. Because here's what people get wrong about strength. It's not always about fighting. Sometimes it's about pausing, letting go, choosing peace over chaos, choosing growth over ego. Sometimes your biggest comeback isn't climbing a new mountain. It's learning to sit still and trust your own healing. Don't underestimate the quiet, the moments no one sees, the late nights, the early mornings, the journaling, the workouts, the prayers, the hard conversations, the boundaries, the discipline, the discipline, the discipline, the discipline, over and over again, even when your heart isn't in it yet, because those moments stack, they accumulate, they shift your identity. And then one day, without any big declaration, you wake up and realize you're back. Not like before. Better, wiser, sharper, more grounded. You don't need to scream about it. You just need to keep walking in it. Let your presence do the talking. Let your peace speak for itself. Let your work be the proof. Because when the comeback is real, it doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be yours. No one truly understands what it took from you, what it cost, the way it broke something inside that no one else could see. That's the thing about loss. It's invisible to the world, but it lives in you. It changes how you walk into a room, how you trust, how you hope, how you breathe. And because that loss was personal, your comeback has to be personal too. Not performative, not for applause, for you. You didn't just lose something, you lost a version of yourself that believed things would go one way and then watched it all collapse. Maybe it was a dream, a relationship, a career, your health, your identity, your sense of stability. Maybe it was something that had been with you for years and was gone in an instant, or maybe it died slowly, piece by piece, and you kept pretending it didn't hurt until pretending became too heavy to carry. And while people saw the surface, only you truly know the weight of what was lost. You know the quiet moments, the ones where your breath caught in your throat because the grief was too loud to ignore. You know the nights when you replayed every decision, every conversation, searching for a way it could have ended differently. You know the shame, the self-doubt, the blame, even if no one else does. That's why the comeback can't be about proving them wrong, because them didn't feel the loss like you did. They weren't there in the silence. They don't lie awake wondering if you'll ever feel whole again. So their opinions, their validation, their recognition, irrelevant. This is between you and the version of you that survived. This is about facing the person in the mirror and finally saying, I'm not going to abandon you anymore. The pain was personal, so the healing has to be personal. And that healing, it doesn't always look powerful on the outside. Sometimes it looks like canceling plans because your body is tired from holding the weight. Sometimes it looks like turning off your phone just to remember who you are without the noise. Sometimes it's starting small again, starting scared, starting slowly. But the fact that you're starting again, that's everything. There's no right way to make a comeback. No script, no schedule, no straight line. Don't let anyone rush your timeline or shrink your process to fit their understanding. They don't know what it took for you to get here. They don't know the silence you've endured, the conversations you've had with yourself just to get through another day. You're allowed to rebuild on your own terms. You're allowed to protect your peace while you do it. And you don't have to justify your healing to anyone who wasn't in the fire with you. There's something sacred about the comeback when it comes from that deep, private space. The kind of space where you rebuild without witnesses, where the growth is raw and unfiltered, where no one sees the work, but it's happening in your mind, in your heart, in your routines. You're learning how to show up for yourself again without needing anyone else to clap for it. The world teaches us to grieve quickly and bounce back with a smile, to pretend we're fine before we are, to hide the cracks. But the truth is, the cracks are where the real strength is formed. You didn't break, you bent, you carried more than most people will ever understand. And here you are, still breathing, still standing, still willing to believe that life can hold something good again. That's not weakness, that's courage. And if you're still in the middle of it, if the comeback hasn't fully taken shape yet, don't lose hope. Just because it's not loud doesn't mean it isn't happening. Just because you haven't arrived doesn't mean you're lost. Some seasons are meant for planting, not harvesting. Some chapters are meant for healing, not proving. Take your time, but stay intentional. Every time you choose not to quit, you're making your way back. Every time you choose to feel instead of numb, you're getting stronger. Every time you choose to act from clarity instead of pain, you're rewriting the story. And that story matters, even if it never becomes a speech, even if no one ever asks how you made it through. Because you'll know. You'll know how far you came. You'll know what it cost. And you'll know without question that this comeback wasn't just a return, it was a rise. You weren't just trying to get your life back. You were trying to get yourself back. And that's what makes this different. That's what makes this powerful. You didn't rebuild to impress anyone. You rebuilt because your soul knew there was more to you than the pain you went through. And maybe that's the whole point, not to bounce back into the same life, but to rise into a better one. One you built from truth, from strength, from resilience. So no, the world may not see the whole picture. They may only catch the end result, stronger posture, brighter eyes, steadier energy. They may never know what it took. But you'll know. You'll know this comeback was real. Because the loss was, let's be clear, your comeback isn't for show. It's not for approval. It's not to prove to anyone that you're okay again. Your comeback is for you. Because you've lived through the loss, carried the silence, survived the unraveling, and now you're choosing to rise. Not loudly, not for applause, but deliberately, authentically, relentlessly. This journey you're on, it's not about becoming who you used to be. It's about becoming someone stronger, someone shaped by truth, anchored in discipline, unshaken by circumstances. You don't owe anyone the noise, but you do owe yourself the follow-through. You've got every right to take your time, to heal in silence, to rebuild without making announcements. But don't mistake that quiet for weakness. The world may not see it yet, but you are becoming dangerous in the best way. Focused, clear, unapologetic. So when it gets hard, and it will, remember this: motivation may leave you, but discipline won't. The world may overlook you, but your work will speak for itself. You may have been knocked down, but you were never out. And now you're coming back. And this time it's personal.